What's happening, party people? Happy Motivate Monday. It is a beautiful beginning to the second month of 2026, February. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share with you that motivation is a lot like taking a bath. If you don't do it every day, eventually you're going to start to stank. And then your funk is going to permeate and impact other people just by your aroma. So you want to do it every day because it gives you that kickstart, it gives you the reminder. And not every day that we begin are we going to be fired up, excited, and passionate about what's before us. And so a lot of that is just having the discipline to really engage in a higher vibration of thinking, a higher vibration of words and sounds. You see, language is the software of the mind. So the words that you are that you're putting out into the world, but the words that you're taking in, these are very, very, very important. There was a study done and they took a microscopic photograph of molecules of water and they had these under the duress of language and energy. And so in one case study, the individuals were talking a lot of negativity. The energy was really, really nasty. The volume was loud, and they were just speaking all of these negative words and sentences. And then you could see under a microscope the shape of the molecules at a cellular level, and they were jagged, they were frayed. And then on the opposite case study, they were speaking very affirming, loving, positive language, sentences, and words. And under the microscope, it was fluid, it was circular, it was solid. It was a fascinating example of the power of language. You can look it up if you just Google the impact of words on water. You'll see it. And then obviously, you've heard about talking to plants and all of that. So that's why we do this every day, Monday through Friday. We do morning motivation. I apologize. This is coming out a little bit late on this Monday because I was doing a lot of motivational things this morning. But that being said, there was something that was on my heart. I want to do something a little bit different today. So bear with me if you would. I want to talk to you about relationships. I want to talk to you about marriage. I want to talk to you about commitment. I want to talk to you about building a family. Now, I've never been married, so I'm not coming here like I'm an expert. I want to get that out front, up front, that I'm not coming to you that I have any authority whatsoever to talk about the institution of marriage. I'm only going to share what I've learned. I'm only going to talk from my own experiences. I'm only going to share by who I'm surrounded by, because I think it's very important that you surround yourself with thinking that's going to be outthinking you. You want to identify people and have relationships where there are strengths that you're going to benefit from, and then hopefully you'll have strengths that they can benefit from, and it's mutually beneficial. So, talking about relationship, number one, please understand if you're in that headspace, and this came to me because I was having some conversations with some younger men that I have the opportunity to work with. Some I'm mentoring in some capacity, shape, or form, but they're also mentoring me because they have some information and knowledge and skills that I don't have. So it's again mutually beneficial. But to that end, I want to share some of these things because I know it can add a lot of mileage to what it is that you want to build and create, because I didn't have anyone in my ear dropping game when I was coming up. I didn't have anybody to pull me to the side and say, hey, listen, it's probably better if you do this, or if you consider that, or look at it this way. And so I really want to be proactive in being a voice that can add value, being a voice that can share from my life experience, what I've studied, what I've learned, and what I've grown from. So number one, for those of you that are serious about wanting to be in a relationship, and perhaps you're wanting to go beyond just a relationship and you want to be potentially married. Number one, understand you could be in a relationship with anybody. Being in a relationship is easy. Why? Because unfortunately, most of us get the sequencing out of order. Meaning, in terms of sequence, what we tend to do, and I'm talking in generalities, is we go by that initial attraction. There's a spark, there's an energy, there's a connection, there's physical attraction. And see, most of us, again, engage in relationship identity when we're in our, late teens, early teens, late teens, early 20s, and so on. Well, see, during that time of life growth and development, our hormones are out of control. Like they're on flex. Like they kick in, 10x and then some. So when you have that combination of hormones going crazy and you're driving from a physical attraction, energy, etc., it's very easy to couple. It's very easy to have sex, and when you have sex it changes the whole dynamic, because that is one of the most powerful emotional and energetic things that can happen in someone's journey. And when you have sex, it brings, for some people it's going to bring you close, but it just depends on what your wiring is. But here's the challenge: if you have two people and they come together on sex, that can mask and cover up a lot of inefficiencies. It can mask and cover up and delay having important, crucial conversations. It can carry you through for months and even sometimes years without really dealing with what are my values? What are my principles? What is it that I want to do? What am I looking for? What do I want to build? And what you'll hear sometimes, and you've heard this, over the years, why would I buy a cow when I can get the milk for free? Meaning, someone's in a relationship, but they're not committed. And the other person wants to be committed. So they pretend not to see that other person doesn't want to make the commitment. And the reason they're pretending not to see it is because they think they're going to change that person. They think, well, if I give this person what they want, eventually they'll come around. And the other person's thinking, well, why would I want to buy a cow when I can get the milk for free? I don't really need to be committed. I don't need to be married. They're going to give me what I want anyway. So, why I'm going to do just enough to get what I want. And so, and it happens on both sides, men and women. So then, 2, 3, 4 years pass by, somebody's going to start to feel some type of way. And then they're going to come to that person and be like, yo, I think it's time for us to go to the next level. The other person's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. What's wrong with the way things are? You didn't say this before. And that's when things start to, go awry. Next thing you know, somebody is leaving that relationship and somebody is going to another one to repeat the same cycle. So that's because it came out of sequence. So what I'm suggesting is that you consider this. If you're just wanting to have fun, okay, and that's all you want to do is have fun, then just be upfront. Say, hey, look, I'm not looking for any type of long-term relationship. I'm not trying to be committed, but I dig you. I like your energy. If you just want to kick it and have some fun, that's what I want to do. But if you're looking for anything more, I'm not your guy. I'm not your gal. Boom. So now you're being honest. You're being in integrity. You're being upfront, and you're giving the other person the option to decide, hey, okay, I can rock with that, or you know what, that's not what I'm looking for, and you keep it moving. So that's that piece right there is the recognition that there's a immense power in physical attraction, that sex can cover up and delay and mask a lot of problems and challenges and conversations that are never had. And that's how people get themselves into trouble, because they look up and it's 2, 3, 4 years in. Well, they're in love with that person and that person might be in love with them, but they're not dealing with any of the issues, and the issues are going to manifest some way, shape, or form. Okay. So that's sequencing. Number 2, make no mistake about it. Whatever childhood trauma you have, you may think that you've dealt with it, but you're going to find out if you really have in the context of a relationship. So again, if that's what you want to do, you have to be willing to do some inner work first. Clean your own house before you bring somebody else into it. Get your own house in order before you start telling somebody else how to get their house in order. Because being in relationship is about coming together as one. It's about helping this individual become a much better version of themselves while you also are doing the same. Well, you can't help somebody become better if you're not working on becoming better. And what happens a lot of times is people just bring all of their emotional baggage and unresolved issues. They bring that with them into whatever that relationship is. And whether it's conscious or subconscious, they're expecting and wanting and waiting for the relationship to heal all of that. Like the relationship is going to be a panacea and make everything go away and make everything feel better because I got somebody that loves me. I got somebody that told me they love me and they're into me. I don't have to be alone, blah, blah, blah. Well, see, if that's your come from, again, you're missing it. Take the time before you even think about getting into a serious relationship, before you even think about asking someone to consider being your lifetime partner, marriage, etc. Do the work on yourself, because I promise you, if you don't and you think that you don't need to, it's going to come up. It's going to manifest in some way, shape, or form. How many times have you ever heard the term or phrase midlife crisis? You've heard of people saying, I don't understand. One day after 15 years of marriage, he or she just got up one day and said they didn't want to be married anymore. I don't understand. Next thing I know, my spouse left me for somebody who's 12 years younger, 15 years younger. And now I'm just left here all by myself. I gave this person this many years of my life and they just walked out on me for somebody who's younger and quote unquote more attractive. Like, what the heck is that? Because the person they were with, there were issues internally from their past that they never dealt with. And they're still trying to figure it out, but they're using the guise of another human being to deal and solve their problems and their issues. And they think, oh, well, all I got to do is go find somebody younger. The reason I'm not happy is because you're old, even though they're the same age, right? You're old. I got to go find somebody that's 10, 15, 20 years younger so I can be happy and really live, feel alive. That person makes me feel alive. That, you hear all these ridiculous things. Somebody that talks like that, that's arrested development. That's someone who's living in denial. They're not embracing the fact that they're aging, that they're changing, and so they're wanting to escape it by using another human being to deal with their crap. Okay? Because they haven't gone into the warehouse, gone into the lab, the basement, and done the inner work that's required to be a better version of yourself. It happens all the time. You all see it all the time. Somebody's in a relationship 15, 20, 25 years, they just leave it. And they go find somebody younger that they think is younger, hotter, right? And that's going to be the thing that makes me feel alive. I'm great. So make sure that you're doing the inner work. Make sure that you take some time to be in the accountability mirror. I know people that the idea of being alone, they can't stand it. They go from one relationship to another one to another one. All they do is relationship hop because they cannot fathom the idea of being by themselves. They go from one dysfunctional relationship to another dysfunctional relationship. And it's a pattern because they're not willing to just be by themselves and do the work. It's hard, but it's so worth it. So when you get things out of sequence, when you're not willing to do the work, when you're not willing to ask hard questions, that's a recipe for disaster. And again, you can cover it up with good sex and chemistry and attraction. That'll hold you. It could hold you for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Eventually, the bill is going to come due, and you're going to have to pay the tab on that. You can't escape it. You might think you're done with your past, but your past is not done with you. And until you rectify some of those issues from your past, whatever it may be, you may have been abused as a child. You may have witnessed multiple divorces as a child. You may have witnessed a dysfunctional relationship. So maybe your parents stayed together, but they were dysfunctional and unhappy and miserable. So you have programming and things that you see. That's your very first role model of a relationship. And you're going to carry some of that into what you deem as a relationship. Now, I'm not saying there are not people who don't take that situation and say, man, I know what I don't want to be. I know the example I don't want to set. So I'm going to make sure that I have some things laid out before I decide to get married, before I decide to commit myself to a relationship. But you got to be willing to ask the hard questions. One of my friends wrote a book. It's called I Can't Afford to Marry You. And in the book, she talks about credit scores. She talks about how people's spending habits in relationship to money, if they don't get that in check, if they don't address it, they're going to bring that into the relationship and it can wreak havoc in the relationship. And so she suggested in the book, when you're sitting down on your first couple of dates, hey, let's look at credit scores. What's your credit score? Here's mine. Tell me about the history. Why is your score that? Like, tell me about your relationship with money. Because if I'm going to think about getting into something serious with you, okay, again, I'm not talking about if you're just having fun, kicking it, no problem. But if you're serious and you want to build something with someone, you got to have those conversations up front before you start having sex. You got to figure out what's your values? What are your principles? What is your idea of a successful relationship? What are your expectations of me? And are you willing to hear my expectations of you? What are your non-negotiables? What are you willing to compromise on? Do you want kids? How many do you want? How much do you expect me to earn in this relationship? Do you have an expectation on yourself, what you're going to earn? Do you want to be the stay-at-home person? Do you want to be the full-time income earner? Do you want me to run the house? Do you want to run the house? So you got to have those conversations up front before you start having sex. Why? Because what happens? They're called happy accidents. Millions and millions of happy accidents happen every day. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, children are a beautiful thing. But unfortunately, most people are not thinking about that. They're thinking about what? Biology, attraction, chemistry, sex, boom. Next thing you know, 9 months later, okay, well, we have a situation we're going to be dealing with for the rest of our lives and we didn't plan it. And I don't know that I agree with your value system. I don't want to be that religion. I'm this religion. I want my kids to go to private school. You want them to go to public school. I believe that you should spend now because you only live once and you want to be frugal and you want to save for a future that may or may not come. I'm not down with that. Next thing you know, you're like, what the heck did I get myself into? Because this person has a totally different set of values. Yeah, they're attractive. Yeah, we had good sex, but now what? Because now I'm basing my decisions. Now, watch this. You have good sex, it could last what? For some of y'all, might be 5, 6 minutes. For some of y'all, might be 15. Hey, you could be a 30-minute plus. I don't know. That's your business. but but that's only a small percentage of a 24-hour day. And even if you're having sex every day, which most people are not, if they do, and if they say they are, they're lying. But let's just say you're doing it 3, 4 times a week. Let's say you're the marathon man or woman. Well, that's 4 hours a week. You still got 164 hours that you have to account for that you're building a life with somebody. And ladies and gentlemen, those 4 hours a week, like I said, it can cover up and mask a lot of things. It could delay a lot of crucial conversations. It can delay a lot of poor habits that you make excuses for with the person that you're with because you're having good sex. But 4 hours against a 168-hour work week, a life week, that ain't gonna cut it in 3, 4, 5 years. And now you have to understand and start thinking long term. If you're thinking about having children, that's for the rest of your life. What are you building? What are you establishing? What principles and values are you going to pass on? So I want to give this as a word and a message of encouragement. I want to give this as a word and a message of consideration. You see, because I didn't deal with some of my childhood trauma. I thought I had, but I really hadn't. And you know where it manifested? In my relationships. It's one of the reasons why I'm not married to this day, because I had some issues that were unresolved and I was not capable of being in a successful relationship. I hadn't put much thought into what is the value system I want to establish. What are the principles that I want to build a family from? How do I want to lead our children? What are the expectations of my spouse and she of me? I avoided a lot of that because of my unresolved trauma that was so um, instilled and hardwired into me. I was so messed up that I was in denial. I didn't even know I was in denial. So I'm using myself as an example. See, when you have the ability to create success in other parts of your life, that can mask it. The same way that sex can mask not dealing with stuff in your relationship, not dealing with commitment issues. Some of y'all are with people right now and you know they're cheating on you, but you don't want to bring it up. You're afraid because you're afraid to ask questions that you're not ready to hear the answers to, but in your gut, you know that they're cheating on you. Some of you are in relationships and you know that the person you're with has no ambition, that they're going to be who they are. And you have to resign yourself that you're settling and you really don't, but now you're more afraid of being alone than you are of settling. Some of you are in relationships and it is abusive. Maybe they're emotionally and verbally abusive. Maybe, it's worse. It's physically abusive. It's all abuse, but you're making excuses because you're getting something out of it. Maybe it's a financial arrangement. Maybe it's a sex thing. I don't know. But because you're not dealing with it, it's a recipe for a life of misery because that's a big part of your foundation. If you're someone that is alive and breathing in a relationship, that person becomes a big part of your life. So because I didn't deal with those things, I brought that unresolved baggage into different relationships. Now, as I was saying, if you're successful in business, if you have a great career with your job, if people if people like you, you might be a great person, you might have great friendships, and you might be really good in other areas, but you might suck in the relationship area. But all that other stuff can mask it because everybody looks at you and they think that you're wonderful. They think that you're a catch, like you're the best. Like who wouldn't want to be with that person, right? If you make a lot of money, it can cover up a lot of stuff. And so this is not unique to me. It happens to a lot of people. And you want to be careful that you're not masking not dealing with stuff by, oh, I'm just going to work and make money and I'm a nice person, so we're going to build a successful life together without dealing with your stuff. So I want to encourage you. One, I want you to grab hold of this, okay? 101 questions to ask before you get engaged. And I've gotten a lot of value out of this. It gives you and your respective spouse, it gives you and your prospective spouse the opportunity to sit down and ask each other questions. It gives you an opportunity to really look into the future and see if there's alignment. Do we have alignment? We don't have to agree on everything, but I need to know a little bit more about what you see for a future. See, unfortunately, our society, it sells a lot of people on the wedding and not the marriage. I want a big wedding. I want to walk down the aisle. I want my Prince Charming. I want my queen to come save me. Like there's a lot of that. And it's all vested in what people, grew up watching on TV and watching in movies, a lot of fictional stuff. And so people put all this time, energy, and effort into the wedding. They spend money they don't have on a wedding, and they ain't thinking nothing about the marriage. There's nothing that irritates me more than when I've been invited to a wedding and then 2, 3 years later, those people are divorced. I'm like, yo, here's the deal. If you invite me to your wedding and you're not still married 10 years from now, I want a refund. Bruh, I want a refund on my time, my airfare, my hotel, the wedding gift. I want a refund on all of that. You see, if we held people to a greater account, they would take those vows way more seriously. Here's the thing. The one thing I did recognize, whether it was conscious or unconscious, I said to myself, marriage is a big deal. Like I would never take those vows and not hold to them, no matter what. Like I'm just not wired that way. It was probably another thing. Like I knew, like I had some stuff, and I was like, "Oh man, you gotta deal with your stuff." I didn't say this, but I think subconsciously I was like, "Yo, you gotta deal with your stuff before you even think about getting married, bro." Like because I see so many people that jump into marriage because they're watching too much TV, and then they end up miserable and divorced, or miserable and they stay in that situation, and it's not good. It's not a good use of your time. So I wanted to give this message to you as a word of thinking, of being strategic, of understanding human nature, understanding the body. A lot of people don't even get to know themselves until they're out of their 20s. A lot of people don't even know who they are, who they want to be, what they're passionate about until they're out of their 20s. So if you're in your 20s and you feel like great, that's a blessing. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I do want you to be thoughtful. I do want you to be mindful. I do want you to be strategic. And yes, you could be romantic, and yes, you could be loving, and you can be affectionate, and you can have great sex inside of a great relationship, inside of a great partnership, inside of a great marriage. But these are things that you want to do. And if you do them in the right sequence, then your life can be a lot simpler. It's not always going to happen that way. I understand that. Okay. Some of you are watching this and you've already made some of the same mistakes I made, but it's okay. Again, happy accidents are a beautiful thing. Like there's a lot that you can get and gain and grow from those happy accidents. But just wanted to share some words and some of my own story with you in the hopes of just helping you. Maybe I could save a couple of you all some time. Maybe I can help you all ask some better questions up front, because when you have that connection, you want to be able to have trust. You want to be able to have commitment. You want to be able to have clear communication. Doesn't mean you're always going to say what I like to hear or vice versa. It just means that we're on the same page. There's no dishonesty. There's no betrayals. There's no hurt that we cause. Life is going to create more than enough obstacles, more than enough pain all by itself. It will. Okay, that's just life. There's no reason for you and I to add to it. If I'm going to be in a relationship with you, I want to be an asset, not a liability. If I'm going to be in a relationship with you, I'm not just going to use you just for sex or for convenience or to deal with my stuff. I want to have these conversations up front. And again, if you just want to have fun and kick it, then go do that. Some of you need to go do that anyway. You need to get that out of your system before you even think about it. Like some of you get on the track of marriage because it's pressured by your family. And again, this is why so many married people cheat. This is why so many marriages end in divorce. Why do we have a rate of divorce where the majority of people who get married get divorced. Why do you think that is? Because people ain't thinking about these things that I'm talking about right now. They're not thinking it through. And they're doing things because of societal pressure. They're doing things because of familial pressure. They're doing things because of internal pressure. And they find themselves in a situation and it's regrettable, but now they don't want to get out. They don't know how to get out of it. So what do? They act out. They cheat, they're abusive, they're mentally abusive, they're emotionally vacant. There's no real connection after a few years. And now it's a business transaction. Now it's transactional. Now you're just, in survival. Oh, well, when the kids get out, then we'll get divorced and then, I'll live my life. Or I'm going to have a mistress or for a mistress or a mister for the woman, whatever it is. And that's just not healthy. It's not necessary. You can avoid a lot of that by being emotionally mature, by really having some thought and some forethought and being considerate, first and foremost for yourself and your own healing and the work that you got to do, and for the respect and the healing and the care that you want to have for your prospective long-term partner. So if you got some value out of this message, please like and subscribe. Go ahead and share this with some people that can benefit from it. This is our daily motivational message. It is Motivate Monday. Have an awesome and amazing week. We're in the first week of February. Let's make an incredible month, focused February, and we'll see you tomorrow.